On behalf of the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Nana Poko, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural lecture of Professor Muhammad Bala. The Vice Chancellor conveys his congratulations and best wishes to Professor Muhammad Bala. I would like to acknowledge the following guests this afternoon: members of Council, members of the Executive Management, members of Senate, our inaugurant this afternoon, Professor Bala, family and friends of Professor Bala, academics, professional staff, and students, alumni, distinguished guests. A special welcome to our guests from universities and organizations within South Africa, the African continent, and across the globe. Inaugural lecture form part of a university public lecture series and may only be presented by newly appointed full professors who have been appointed in academic school and centers. Inaugural lectures presents an opportunity for showcasing the exciting and groundbreaking research and teaching being carried out by professors in our university. Each lecture represents a significant milestone in an academic career, providing official recognition of their promotions or appointment to full professorship. These lectures are furthermore an ideal opportunity for new professors to introduce themselves and to present an overview of their contribution to their field to academic peers, students, and research collaborators. Inaugural lecture also a platform for celebrating professors' academic achievement with his or her family, friends, mentors, and colleagues. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to now introduce the Dean and Head of School of Agriculture and Science, Professor Ademola Olaniran, who will now formally introduce inaugurant Professor Mohamed Bala. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, the DVC. Good afternoon, all, and thank you very much for joining us for today's inaugural lecture. It is with great honor that I introduce our inaugurant for today, Professor Muhammad Bala. Professor Bala is a full professor in the discipline of chemistry at the School of Agriculture and Science, University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. Professor Bala obtained a BSc Honors degree in Textile Science and Technology from Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria in 1991. He earned an MSc in Chemistry with distinction from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in 1997. He was awarded a full scholarship by the Ministry of Higher Education of China to undertake doctoral studies culminating in a PhD in Applied Chemistry from East China University of Science and Technology in 2002. He began his academic career at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in 2006 as a lecturer, rising through the ranks to become a senior lecturer in 2012, an associate professor in 2015, and a full professor in 2022. Professor Bala's research lies in the fields of organometallic chemistry, coordination chemistry, homogeneous catalysis, and green chemistry. His work particularly focuses on the design and synthesis of novel transition metal complexes for sustainable catalysis, including oxidation and transfer hydrogenation reactions. He has successfully supervised 14 PhD and 10 master students to completion over the years, with additional MSc and PhD students currently under his supervision. Professor Bala has also mentored numerous honor students and postdoctoral fellows. His scholarly contributions include over 100 research articles published in high-impact international journals. He has also examined more than 40 MSc and PhD theses from various local and international universities. Professor Bala has presented his work at numerous international conferences, including the American Chemical Society meetings, international conferences on organometallic chemistry, and HIUPAC sponsored symposia. He has also served as a session chair and organizing committee member at several national and international scientific meetings. Professor Bala is currently rated as a C2 established researcher by the National Research Foundation of South Africa from the period 2021 to 2027. He has twice been recognized among the top 30 researchers at UKZN. That was in 2008 as well as in 2022. In addition to his academic responsibilities, Professor Bala served on several university and national committees, including the NRF Funding Assessment Panel for both rated and unrated researchers. He regularly reviews grant proposals for the NRF and manuscript submissions for international journals such as Inorganic Chemistry, RSC Advances, Coordination Chemistry Reviews, and Molecular Catalysis. He was elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry and a member of the American Chemical Society, the Catalysis Society of South Africa, as well as the International Union of Crystallography, amongst others. Professor Bala, congratulations on behalf of all of us on your incredible academic achievements, and may I please invite you to deliver your inaugural lecture titled Catalyst of Change, Harnessing Earth Abundant Metals for a Green Future.
Thank you, Prof. I'm trying to share my screen, but I can only see the one screen. Share. Are we seeing the correct screen, or is just the split one?
Split one.
Split one. Okay, yeah, we had this issue before. Let me just go back and stop and try again. I think the second time it should work. Yeah, now it's gonna work. Okay. Now you see the correct one, isn't it?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna use a laser. Thanks, Professor Laniran and the DVC for the introduction and the warm welcome to everyone. The title of my inaugural has already been read out. And let me use this opportunity once again to greet and welcome my colleagues who have all been wishing me luck and wishing me well today, my students who have been sending me messages, friends from around the world, my childhood friends, my family in particular who have all been in this together with me, and all guests who have signed in to listen to us. Let me just start by talking a bit about the title, because some people will be wondering, what is the title? What is Catalyst of Change? I chose this title just to enhance the fact that it's not just the chemicals that are really important to bring change, to bring chemical transformation. The people involved, that's us, me, my students, my mentors, are also very important. And this celebration, this lecture, is really for all of us, the chemistry and the people involved. For the next 40 minutes or so, I'll take you through my journey around the world, my journey through chemistry, and show you what I've really done. So to begin with, my search for knowledge really transpired through continents. I was born and raised in Nigeria, as it was introduced, first educated up to MSc in Nigeria, took my first and longest flight to the end of the world, to China, where I spent 5 years of my life. I had the best time of my life because I went to China at a time when really things were changing. It was the best time to go to China, learned a lot, got very homesick, although I had opportunities to remain in Asia. Korea called me, Taiwan called me. I said, no, I'm tired. I need to go back to Africa. Came back, And then Johannesburg came calling. That's when I came to South Africa. And here I am, now a full professor. The knowledge I brought back from China, I've passed on to many Africans. And I hope by the end of this talk, I will be able to share some of that knowledge that I have gained. My journey for knowledge, as wide as it is, so is my chemistry. As an inorganic chemist, the periodic table is the one that represents everything we do. And I'm one of those chemists who have more or less traversed the whole of this table. I started from the very bottom. I'll show you later what I've done. My chemistry actually started with the lanthanides. As I said, I was really lucky to be in China at the right time, because that's probably one of the few places you can really do chemistry with these metals. And then I moved to Johannesburg. I moved to the middle, what we call the heavy metals. And it was there that through working with one of the best chemists around the world, I have realized we need to do things differently. And I moved further up to what we call the rusty metals, the iron group metals. So my chemistry has really traversed almost the entire length of the periodic table. And I will take you through this journey with me. I hope you will hang around until the very end. There will be a bit of chemistry, but I also have a lot of stories to tell. And I hope we all have a good time in the next hour or so. So let me still go back to what has been introduced, because my life started back home in Nigeria, where I did a BSc honors in textile science and technology, which is similar to our applied chemistry here. It's a chemistry and a bit of engineering involved. And then as part of the degree, you actually have to do industrial attachment. So I worked in industry for about 6 months, actually at a textile farm in northern Nigeria, where I come from, in the former Sokoto state, called Zamfara Textile. I was there for 6 months. It was in that state that I realized maybe industrial work is not for me, because I went through all the departments. I could sense that after a week, everything is just repetitive. And also, by the time I graduated in 1991, the writing is on the wall. A lot of cheap import of textiles is coming into Nigeria and all over the world. And I realized the future probably is not in industry. After my national service, which we call NYSC in Nigeria, National Youth Service Corps, I actually got a job in a new company in Kaduna, not far from Zaria, called Finetex. But while I was thinking about it, I got admitted to do an MSc, which is part of an employment where I was a graduate assistant, which is the beginning into academia. So I decided, let me go back to school, let me go back and further my education. I ended up having an MSc in polymer science, given my macromolecular background. So I did my coursework, because it's a coursework plus project MSc. So my courseworks were in organic chemistry and polymer. While I was about to finish, I applied to the federal government through the Federal Scholarship Board for a scholarship, and I was successful. Usually when you heard that you get a scholarship, you think you are going to Europe because of the link, the colonial link. I thought I was going to the UK or something, but I was told, Mohammed, you are going to China. Well, China, a lot of stories from friends. Why you want to go there? There's nothing but just cheap things they are dumping here. There's nothing but bicycles. Remember, I'm talking about China 30 years ago. I went to China in 1997, almost 30 years now. But against everything, I went to China. And really, that's where my chemistry begins. So this is the beginnings. 1997, I was in China. And I can confirm that the only thing that people got right was telling me is the land of bicycles. Yes, it's the kingdom of bicycles. In fact, even the police, that's all they had, bicycles. So if you commit any crime, they will chase you on their bicycles. This is a typical street of Nanjing, the city where I learned my language. Yes, I had to do 1 year of language. I speak Chinese very well. When it rains, people bring out their raincoats, you can see. Today, if you go to this same street, you're probably going to see BYD, electric vehicles, and the rest. China has come a long way in the last 30 years or so. So we went to China when China was implementing what they call Gaigakai Fan, which means reform and opening. They were actually opening to the world. They want foreigners to come and see, because all the myths about China, they want to dispel it. They want us to come, experience the country, and go back to our countries as ambassadors to spread the fact that China is not really what we thought or the world thought it was. So I went to East China University of Science and Technology, which was based in Shanghai. Shanghai is farther towards the sea, farther from Nanjing. And apart from this kingdom of bicycles, everything else was different. Everything else was a surprise. The first surprise was this. This was our hostel. When we arrived, I was shown this hotel. I said, maybe someone has forgot there's an S in hostel spelling. Actually, it's a hotel. It's a proper hotel. Even today, you can book it on booking.com. And we were housed on the 4th floor. Visitors were on the 5th floor. My room is somewhere there at the corner. When later my wife joined me, we spent 4 splendid years in this beautiful place. My lab is just a few meters away from this, because this actual hotel is on campus. So that is surprise number 1. Surprise number 2 was when I went to meet my supervisor, my professor. This man here, may his soul rest in peace, because he passed away. Professor Chiang Yan Long. You can hear me calling the name as Chiang Yan Long. That's how Chinese call their names. Always the surname is the one that you call first in Chinese way. So his name is Chiang Yan Long. A very prominent professor. He's A-rated if I compare to the South African way of rating. Because in the Chinese way, being a professor doesn't really mean you can supervise PhD. You have to be what they call Boshi-Daoshi. Boshi-Daoshi is a professor who can supervise a PhD. And even if you are Boshi-Daoshi, in those days, because foreigners, they want to give us the best, you also have to be very prominent. You have to have international exposure. So my professor was actually twice a humbled scholar. He actually speaks German very well. So when we have papers in German, we give him to translate for us. So that's the only reason why I was allowed to work with him. I met Prof. Chiang. We had an interview, because that's how he does. He always interviews his people. I'm already in China anyway, so he can't reject me. But for Chinese, before he takes students, they actually have to apply. He interviewed them. Those who are successful, they get taken. That's how much people wants to come to his lab. He's a top scientist. And so what did we do? Let me go a bit into the chemistry. The history is probably a bit over now. So the chemistry of what we did as a PhD student were actually what we call sandwich complexes. So they look like a sandwich, where the organic group, what we call the ligand, 2 of them, the cyclopentadiene, is just like benzene that is missing 1 carbon. That's a cyclopentadiene. So 2 of them are sandwiching a metal. That's why they are called sandwich complexes. In fact, it is the link of these sandwiches that eventually brought me to South Africa. I will show you the link later. And in those days, late 90s, early 2000, the Ziegler-Natta catalysts, which were used for olefin polymerization, were very, very popular. So everybody is working with titanium, zirconium, hafnium. And then you need a co-catalyst, basically Mao, as they call it. We like to call it Mao because of Chairman Mao, but actually it's methyl alumoxane and other aluminum alkyls. They are used as co-catalysts, mostly in excessive amount, in thousands of excess. Then they are used for polymerizing alkenes. The polymer time was really at the peak, multi-billion-dollar industry. So companies are interested in making new catalysts for polymerization. And our professor, being a prominent professor, he has linked to industry. But for me, when I came after the interview, I don't know what he saw in me. There's a small group, a select group that were actually working with lanthanides. Lanthanides, I call them lanthanides, although the rest of the world, you hear people calling them rare earths. I don't know why they are called rare earths, because they're actually not rare. There's nothing rare about them. If you look at this number here, this is actually abundance. These elements are actually more abundant than some of the platinum group metals. You can see the numbers there. So they are not rare. What is rare about them is the difficulty in purifying them. China took the gamble. It's a very expensive, very dirty, very difficult business to separate them because they come together in the ore and they behave similarly, chemically and physically. They are hard to separate. It's a very dirty business. China did it, and now you can see they have cornered that. I don't have to go into politics. You know what is happening between China and the US now about access to lanthanides. Well, I was lucky. I was put into the lanthanides group, and what did we do? So what we were tasked with is to prepare catalysts for polymerizing a monomer known as methyl methacrylate to form what we call PMMA. Methyl methacrylate is a very important polymer. It's sold as plexiglass, perspex. You find it anywhere that you need to use glass, but you need degree of safety. A good example is this public aquarium. What you have there is actually plexiglass instead of glass, because glass will be dangerous. If something happens, people are gonna get hurt. The problem with PMMA is that it has a side chain, the acrylate side chain. So as the polymer grows, the monomer could be, the side chain could be in one side, what we call the isotactic isomer. It could be random, which is the atactic, which means no control, or it could be, where is atactic? Yeah, it's here, random, or it could be this one. That's what I'm interested in, syntactic, where there is a regular alternation of the side group as the polymer grows. This is what industry wants. Industry wants us to design and prepare a catalyst that could give essentially syntactic isomer because it has many advantages. It has a high TG. TG means glass transition temperature. The higher, the better, because that now gives you the usable point of the catalyst, and then things like that. So what was my chemistry? My chemistry was to prepare this sandwich kind of complexes. We start from cyclopentadiene. There's a lot of chemistry here. I don't have time to go through them, but you can see the type of things we are using. Very dangerous chemicals. Sodium CP you have to prepare. Then when you want to put it onto the lanthanides, you have to make potassium salt of that, extremely explosive. So to do this chemistry, you need highly advanced knowledge of what we call the Schlenk technique, the ability to exclude the environment. Air and moisture can destroy this catalyst quickly. But we persevered. I made several series of this. I'm just showing you one series. And the good thing about my catalyst that I made also is that they are single component catalyst, which means they don't need any, not any, but they don't need much co-catalyst. And the result was a syntactic catalyst. We ran a bunch of lanthanides, and samarium was the most active. What was the turning point for me? The result for me was that I was able to publish my papers. My first ever papers was in the top journals of my field, organometallic chemistry and catalysis. Those were my first papers. But before I could publish, the company had to take their patent. So 2001, they say, hold on, this is a good work. So we were actually sponsored by Sinopec, one of the top petrochemical companies in the world. They took a patent in 2001 from my work. After that, then they allow us to publish the work, and I got my PhD in 2002. But while I was there, Professor Chian had invitation to write some reviews. He invited me to write the review, which I did. After that, he challenged me, Mohammed, I have this lifelong ambition. I always wanted to publish in chemical reviews, one of the top in chemistry. I told him, Prof, that's a top job. I need people to help me do it. So I collected three of my classmates, Liam Bin, Tanghao, and Tanghao, plus myself. We slogged, and I had to take a postdoc with him for about 6 months. And by around November, because I finished my PhD by June, I stayed for 5 months. Paper was written, it was submitted, and I helped Professor Chian to accomplish his lifelong ambition. In fact, I think a month or two after it was published, he passed away because while I was doing my PhD, he was in and out of hospital with terminal illness. A very good man. He taught me a lot. He welcomed me. He took me like his son. He really made me feel at home in China. That's my story about China. But while we are doing this paper, because remember in those days, you have to go to the library, you have to go to the chemical abstracts, you have to look at those fonts like font 4.5 just to find papers. We found hundreds of papers. But while we are looking at those papers, one name stood out for me. The reason because the address is in Africa. Because the Chinese, honestly, I have to be frank, in those days, 30 years ago, they thought there's nothing good about Africa. Alhamdulillah, I have helped to dispel that myth, because they could say I'm African, but I could do something. But I saw that address. It's Johannesburg. I said, I must talk to this man. So I wrote to my next mentor, the best you can ever get, Prof. Colville. I wrote him an email from the papers we gathered. And to cut a long story short, after my PhD, I went back to Nigeria, and 6 months later, I was in Johannesburg, May of 2003, to start a postdoc with Prof. Colville. And boy, you can't ask for a better mentor. Prof, I know you are listening. He just celebrated his 80th birthday. Once again, happy birthday, Prof. I can spend the rest of this thing talking about Professor Colville as a human being. To me, in summary, he is the best that you can ever have. Thank you, Prof, for being there for us. So what did I do in Johannesburg? I did what is called mostly green chemistry, solvent-free chemistry, a total turnaround from China. There, the chemistry was difficult. You need advanced skills, advanced techniques. Here, you can see this looks like a kitchen, right? That's more or less what we were doing. We were grinding stuff using pestle and mortar to get chemical reactions going, what we call mechanochemistry. Sometimes we hit them in what we call thermochemistry. So among the things I have taken away out of being in Prof. Colville's lab is, really, why must you use a solvent if you don't need, if it's not necessary? And if you have to use a solvent, why must you use 100 mils when 10 mils can do? Those are all the principles of what we call green chemistry. Most reactions are very fast. Why must you cook your reaction for over 24 hours? And then later you say, I have a yield of 60%. Yes, you have 60% because the 40% you have been transformed into something else. All this is green chemistry, sustainable chemistry, chemistry with concern for the environment at its core. That was turning point number 2 for me. And in summary, what I've learned from Prof. Colville in chemistry and in life is to always keep it simple. Let me just show you quickly what we have done, because we are the first to actually do this. When I came to VEX, there's quite some things going. So this is the setup we had, where we can actually be able to take image of a reaction going on. This is a simple reaction of substitution, where we are substituting the living group with these phosphines to form new compounds. But I want you to keep tab. You see here, the metal of choice is what? Is ruthenium. So I'm now moving from the lanthanides towards the middle of the periodic table. I'm moving into the heavy metals. I haven't reached where I really wanted to go. So in this instance, what we were showing is that, these pictures are taken here with the camera at 60% magnification. So what we're actually looking at here are basically crystals, specks, just like a speck of salt. And what we are showing is that those components that are in contact, that is the complex and the phosphine, which is the white one, they actually melt before you have a reaction. So the melting is very, very crucial, because without this photographic evidence, people think they are actually doing a solid to a solid reaction. We also did that for even more complex reactions, like this one, which is called migratory insertion, where you are inserting a phosphine and the CO, and you have migration of the CO to the meter to form an acyl. And we were able to follow this reaction and we got kinetic and mechanistic data. But the critical one is still this evidence, where we can show that this reaction went from here to there, but it went through a melt. Without that magnification and that camera, we will never have seen this. Most people only see this as the starting and that as the end. And they say we have a solid reaction. So before I left WITS, I decided, Prof, we need to tell the world. So we wrote this review also in GOMC because it's really a journal I really respect even today. We wrote the review where I made this cartoon to show that although you have two solids and the product is solid, the critical part is that it goes through a liquid intermediate. And this paper has been well accepted around the world. So this is the story of my PhD and my postdoctoral days. So to move on with my research, I got opportunity to come to Durban, to UKZN, and start my independent research. To start the research, what do? You go back to what you know. So I combined my turning point number one, which launched me into organometallic chemistry in Professor Chiang's lab in Shanghai, with my turning point number two, which was to open my eyes about sustainability, about the fact that the end doesn't justify the means. We don't have to kill the environment just because we want to make new products. So I have to find the middle ground. So I started my research in what I call sustainable catalysis. In fact, it is actually sustainable homogeneous catalysis. So let me give you some hints of what I've been doing. The core of my research, the core strength of my research is the ability to use these metals, what we call base metals. Some people call them earth-abundant metals because they are very abundant. They are everywhere. Iron, nickel, cobalt, copper as catalyst. Because if you look at the periodic table, most catalysis, you talk to anybody, people think about the platinum group metals, but those are heavy metals. There are many advantages of using these metals. Let me give you the most important for me when I started as a new researcher. It's economics. This is the comparison of platinum versus, look at this. This is actually right at the base there. And this data is already, almost 6 years old. Platinum is about 4,000 times, in fact, 10,000 times more expensive than iron. So it makes economic sense if you can be able to produce catalysts from these kind of metals. But beyond economics, there are also many other reasons. I talk about abundance. If you look at the relative abundance, these metals are very much abundant as compared to the PGM or compared to even the lanthanides. But more importantly, they are compatible with nature. Nature uses these elements. Example is the enzymes. You will never see nature using heavy metals. Nature never uses lanthanides. So it's actually common sense if you want to be environmentally conscious to now look at nature and try to imitate using the same metals. In addition, also, they are relatively non-toxic, even in stoichiometric quantities. So these are all the positives for using these earth-abundant rusting metals, as they are called, for catalysis. But these metals also have a problem. Their problem is that, and that's the main reason why most people don't actually do this kind of chemistry, is the fact that they are very, very oxophilic and hydrophilic, meaning in simple terms, they rust. You give them the chance, they're going to imbibe in the environment, moisture and oxygen from the environment, and they rust. So even their complexes, you have to be very clever how you stabilize them. Otherwise, they're going to rust. You're going to lose your compounds. So as chemists, our major job is to find a way to stabilize these metals so that they can do something. And that's the title of my topic, which is people and the molecules coming together. We are the drivers. We have to find a way to stabilize them. And the best way of stabilizing them is by designing ligands. So what are ligands, by the way? So these are actually organic small molecules that surround metals in complexes. So like this is a complex where you have a metal at the center and you have the organic groups around. So the ligands could be monodentate, like in this example, which means one donor atom, or the donors could be linked in this instance, for instance, to give you a bidentate chelate. So chelates and tridentate pincers are the best for stabilizing these metals because they bring additional stability. And I'll show you examples of ligands that we have done. Some of the things that happened while I was at WITS, I'm going back to WITS a bit because towards the end of my stay, and that is also one of the reasons why I'll never forget Professor Colville, he gave me the opportunity to travel for the first time to an international conference. There was an ICOMC. This is the top conference for people working in this field. And I was there in Zaragoza with him. I can a lot of story there. I don't want to go there. Prof know the story I was about to give, but I don't have the time to give the story. Very interesting. That story really was the thing that summarizes to me who Prof Colville was. He is just the perfect human being. I learned a lot from traveling with him, but that's a story for another day. Let's remain with the chemistry. So when I was in Zaragoza, it was just after the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2005 was awarded for metathesis. And one of the awardees, this man here who just passed away recently, Professor Bob Grubbs, came there because he was giving a lecture. And I realized not only him, almost every other lecture, people were talking about this fancy new ligand called the N-heterocyclic carbines, that they stabilize metals of all types. And indeed, they are carbines because this is still a 6-electron center, and they behave differently from other carbines like the Fischer or Scrog carbine, which only coordinate to certain metals and they form a double bond to the metal. This kind of carbines are known to only form a sigma bond to the metal. They don't accept back donation. That's why they can stabilize metals in any state, which is critical for catalysis, because during catalysis, metals do oxidize and reduce, and they change their state of oxidation. And I believe that's probably one of the reasons why Grubbs moved from the first generation to the second generation. Because if you can see in the first generation, it was a phosphine, but by bringing in the NHC, I'll call the NHC from now on, he got a much active, much stable catalyst. In fact, this catalyst is actually commercially available. People that do metathesis, they can buy it from Aldrich and other vendors. And the beauty of this ligand is that you can do a lot about it. You can functionalize it. If you look at the structure, it looks like a bird. So people use the analogy to describe it. Even in literature, that's how you hear people talking about wingtip substituent. That is this one. It looks like the wing of a bird. So you can substitute at the wingtip. At the backbone, you can do some chemistry. It looks like the backbone of the bird. So there's a lot that can be done. So I came back with that idea. I said, if I start my independent research, I think I'm going to explore these new ligands. And as soon as I got the job, after the conference, in fact, months later, I got the job at UKZN, and I launched into NHC. So when I started, what do you do as a new entrant into a field? You look at the big wigs. So I look at the big fellows that are working in this field already. People like Crabtree and Albrecht, even Kingsley Cavell. I'm sure Prof. Covell remember him. He's a good friend of yours. He came to WITS to give a lecture on NHCs. But if you look at all these guys, they are working on palladium, platinum too. That's the kind of compounds they are making. So I thought maybe I can compete here. I need to move to a safe place, the ion. It's difficult, but we're going to give it a try. But we look at these papers actually to see how do they make the carbines. And we look at the metals are actually not environmentally friendly. You have to use some not very friendly solvents. The temperatures are quite high. And also, most importantly, you use column chromatography. I need to keep moving. So we develop methods where you don't really do this. So this is the method we developed, where what I've learned from WITS, we can actually make these ligands by a solvent-free method. We simply grind these two that are solid, solventless, and then we get our ligands. But more importantly, we also don't do this. So I call it solvent-free, chromatography-free strategy, which we developed. Haliru is a very talented chemist. He was the one that together we did this. So what we do is we have a short plug of silica. By switching solvents, we can get these compounds in 95 to 90, in extremely high yields. The method is now standard in my life, and many have adopted it. We communicated this method of ours in 2014, and it's now common in my lab. Another ligand that we have also worked with was the shift base, the humble shift base. Everybody knows shift base chemistry. Amine and aldehyde or ketone, you condense them. Water is the living group. If you find a way to take away the water, the reaction moves forward. Otherwise, you have equilibrium. Normally, what we do is we add molecular sieves, and this reaction keep driving forward. We have done a lot of this with iron. Ibrahim Kadwa did this chemistry. But then I taught myself, shift bases have been around for too long. You can see when it was first communicated. Why don't we combine shift base and the NHC that I have so much interest in? And we came up with what is called shift base NHC compounds. We were not the first to introduce this, but we are among the very early entrants into the field. So we developed this method. An important addition of ours also is the fact that we can do this also solvent-free. Very, very simple conditions. 30 minutes, you grind this together, and within 30 minutes, you get these salts in very high yields. In fact, we don't even need to isolate this. You can just carry in situ. You can get your complexes of nickel. In this case, you can also get cobalt complex. That's an example of a complex we made using this method by putting R as another donor. So we put this R to be a picolide so that you can have differential donation for this cobalt complex. And so that's our contribution towards ligand design. And in fact, very recently, when Haduri came back as a postdoc with Holger, we wrote this review to celebrate our contribution and others in this field of combining shift bases and NHC as ligands. Lots of success over the years with these ligands. Many of my PhDs have been working on this. Okay, so that's about ligands, that's about the metals. I think I need to tell you something about catalysis before my time is up. So we do a lot of catalysis, actually, homogeneous catalysis. Homogeneous means everything is in single phase, which is different from heterogeneous, in which the catalyst is in a different phase, mostly the solid phase. Mine, everything is all dissolved in the same phase. We do hydrogenation and oxidation, the two ends of chemistry. We also do coupling reactions, which are mostly done using palladium and other PGMs. We can actually do very good coupling, but also we have developed catalysts that can take cyclohexane all the way to adipic acid. Normally, when you take cyclohexane, you oxidize it, you get cyclohexanol and the ketone. But our acid can also, our catalyst can also do ring opening to give you adipic acid, which is the precursor to adiponitrile, which is the monomer for making nylon, another multi-billion-dollar industry. I don't have time to show you all this. I hope I have time to show you at least one of this, or probably both of them. Let's start with the one that kick off my catalysis, which is hydrogenation. Not just any hydrogenation, it's actually transfer hydrogenation. Why is it transfer hydrogenation? Because we are transferring the hydrogen. So I always show this slide, people that do. So what we are doing is moving from here to here. Multi-million-dollar requirement to do hydrogenation to simple laboratory way of doing hydrogenation. Yes, this can only work on activated molecules like ketones, like amines. So ketones get reduced to alcohols and amines to amines, for instance, by borrowing the hydrogen from the solvent, which is mostly isopropanol. You can also use other hydrogen donors. You need a base. The base works together with the catalyst to take the hydrogen to the ketone, and then you get your product out. So in the next slide, I'll show you just a comparison to show you that almost all our metals can do this. Several generations of our catalyst. This was the first one we did. In fact, this is the last time I have worked with sandwiches. So I started with full sandwich in Shanghai, and then came to half sandwich in Johannesburg. I brought my sandwich all the way to Durban, but after this, after Moni came, my very first PhD student, we tried sandwiches. So they are not too good in catalysis. So we ditched sandwiches and then moved to other catalysts. This is the one I call a butterfly. I'll show you why it's called a butterfly. And this is a square. One is on iron, cobalt, and nickel. A perfect square planar, which very beautiful. We can play around here. We can do NMR. We can study a lot on this compound. And this is our immuno NHC. You can see that's the carbene there, and that is the shift base together. And the reason why this is a good catalyst is because that nitrogen of the shift base actually as a hemilabile, so it allows the insertion of the substrates, the solvent and the other one. So what did we get after running this catalyst? The results are here. So to summarize a lot of this data is the fact that the cobalt immuno NHC is the best catalyst, because if you take the baseline for all of them, which is calculating the TOF, the turnover frequency, which means we take the amount of the conversion over time, this is the best catalyst. So it means you need a chelating or even a pincer ligand that supports the metal center long enough for it to do catalysis. And this is just a selection of our substrates. Over time, I have built a library of ketones. In our publications, we have shown how to use our different catalysts for more than 30 examples of various ketones, straight chain, cyclic, aromatic, saturated, non-saturated. We have tried them all. In fact, we have even tried competitive. So we took an unsaturated a ketone to see whether our catalyst will pick up both the ketone and the carbon-carbon double bond. Well, it doesn't, but it's worth the try. So that's the story about transfer hydrogenation. And I'll show you why we call this this particular, I like this catalyst, why we call it the butterfly. You can see we published this paper. I convinced the editor, because if you look at the catalyst from another angle, it looks like a butterfly, isn't it? Looks like a butterfly. That's the butterfly, and it's a bench-stable catalyst that can do this chemistry, and you have very good selectivity and conversion. Yeah, so that's the story about that. I think I still have some time to tell you the next story. I'll do that quickly, which is paraffin peroxidation. We were also into paraffin peroxidation. This was part of the C-Change program. C-Change is a center of excellence in catalysis based in Cape Town, and I was involved in that. I was invited by my good friend, Prof. Friedrich, when I joined here to join the paraffin activation research group of C-Change. To me, C-Change was one of the most well-run centers of excellence. We had fun there. It's a big group, everyone doing their stuff, but we all meet together. So when you hear paraffins, what do you think? You think of energy generation, right? Because they are very stable molecules. They don't do anything. They only contain carbon-hydrogen bond, and it's all saturated, sp3 hybridized. So it's either you put them into your car and you drive, energy generation, you produce more pollution, or you cook at home, you produce more pollution. So the government of South Africa thought, why don't we find value to add value to these paraffins? So oxidation was the thing to do. So, but when you want to oxidize a straight chain molecule like N-octane, you have problems upon problems. First, you need to convert this unreactive molecule. Number two, you need to have chemoselectivity, because once you bring in one oxygen atom, you have a problem. You could make alcohols, the alcohols could oxidize to ketones and then to acids. You make aldehydes at the terminal carbon. You also have issue of regioselectivity. Which carbon gets picked by the catalyst, carbon 1 or carbon 2 or 3? So we were tasked to finding catalysts that can do that. And enter Lynette Komarsamy, a very talented student. We gave her this project, and in the first instance, we designed these cobalt-based catalysts. There's a lot that we can do around this catalyst. The wingtips, as I showed you with the carbenes, we can do chemistry there. We can also do chemistry on the backbone. So at the start, we chose a rigid backbone versus a very flexible backbone, and we ran both in catalysis, and we found that the flexible backbones were more than twice as reactive as the rigid backbone of the pyridine and donor. Please don't laugh at these numbers. For paraffins, any conversion over 10% is considered good. I've seen papers where they only got, in fact, single-digit conversions. So these are really good numbers, and to prove it, we published the next MSc thesis in a very good journal, Data on Transactions, did not also got her MSc cum laude. Examiners were really raving about the quality of the work. For her PhD, we continued with the same chemistry. So we said, since the flexible backbone was the most active, why don't we continue? So we ditched the rigid backbone. We just constrained the flexibility. We changed the metal to nickel. It wasn't good. Then we went to copper, and you can see what we are getting. In fact, this copper compound, up to date, I can confirm to you, it is the most active ever N-octane oxidation catalyst. I'm talking over my words. And the turnover number of 3,000 is very good for N-octane oxidation. So that's the catalysis file, and that's my story. And in fact, that's the champion catalyst, where you can see the sub-students there. Before I leave, I need to thank my students and show appreciation to them, because they did all this work. Everything I have presented, I have, as mentioned, over a dozen PhD students. They are all over the world. They're all working in different environments and different places. And here is a mini African nations, because there are about 7 different nationalities here. And also my MSc students, very talented young men and women. I thank you all for working with me. I hope the way I enjoyed working with you guys, you have also enjoyed with me. Thank you. And before I also hang up, I have to thank my collaborators. I've already mentioned Prof. Frederick, Vincent Yimori, we have come a long way, and Bernard, all the way from WITS, we are together there. And Neil, we ran Hamisu together. You remember with Daresh and Raj, we have done quite some work. Tishana, we are doing work together now. Abdul, we ran a PhD together. Pavesh, Nzamo, we are doing some work together. And Pindile, Sapiso, Pinky with Haliru. Lab. Thanks, Bana, for everything. Also, I must mention Prof. Matinche and Professor Subbu Singh. These people, the two of them were like my brother and sister big brother and big sister when I came to Durban. They really made my transition to Durban very, very easy. They helped me, they tell me where to go and get stuff. Thanks, Bishe, and thanks to Subbu. And thanks to all our colleagues. I can't mention everybody's name. Academic, admin staff are very helpful in sorting out things. Technical staff, Malin, and everyone, I thank you for always being there for us. Socially, I play any game that is related to paddle. I know my time is up. To table tennis, which I picked from China. I play paddle, I play tennis. All my friends that we do this, you know yourselves. I appreciate you and thank you for making my life easier. Back home, Usman Hassan in particular, my friend who always there at the airport to make sure I feel comfortable. Thanks, Usman, for always being there for me. And my brother Ibrahim and sister Aisha, my good friend Dantani, thank you all. Oh, finally, my happy place. My happy place is really when I'm with my group. And these are my group over the years. This picture needs no comment. That's my family. I can spend minutes here telling you, but this lady here, I could not have done this journey with anybody else. Thanks, Mama Abdul, for always being there for me. You make my life very easy. My parents, my daddy just passed away a few months ago. I can't forget Dad. I always think about you, Dad, wherever you are. I hope you are in paradise. I will never forget his approach to life. He takes things easy, very witty old man, carefree approach to life. My mom, I appreciate you. Mom, we hope you live long, much longer life. You can see, always happy when I'm with my parents. And those that give money, I appreciate. Without you, we can do nothing. Thank you very much. And to you, my listeners, I will say big thank you. People from home, now go to the Hokazo. I have friends, I speak all these languages. Shukran jazilan and hengan sheni mensheshe panyomen. Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave you with this. Think about it. This is for the future. Professor Laniran, I have come to the end of my presentation. Thank you for allowing me to reach the end.
Thank you so much, Professor Bala. Congratulations once more. I think you taught us so many things today about the sandwich complexes, the ligands, free solvents, catalysis and paraffin oxidations and octane and so on and so on. I think I could have been one of the best chemistry students. I was listening attentively.
Thank
And
you.
on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and Executive Management, Nano Poku and Senate, keep on flying UKZN flag high. At UKZN, we inspire greatness, and we're so proud to be a professor within this university. We want you to breed more, and thank you so much. We want to wish you all the best, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.